Juan Health Partners Family Medicine at 120 Llano Street. With nearly 20 tests available, there's an option for everyone. My Labs, patient-ordered testing, a wellness service of San Juan Regional Medical Center. Ten minutes past 8 o'clock. It's Friday morning, November the 2nd. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin. Thank you for joining us this morning on KSJE 90.9 FM and 90.9 HD. Special welcome to our viewers who are watching us live this morning on the KSJE Facebook page and YouTube channel. Coming up in just a moment, our big topic this morning is mental health, and we'll be talking about that with Rick Quevedo. He is, of course, with Desert View Family Counseling here in Farmington, and we are opening up the phone lines and the social media lines. If you have a specific question about mental health or things to be aware of, we invite you to join the conversation this morning. You can do that by commenting on our Facebook page or by calling in at 505-566-3909. 566-390.9 is the number to call if you have a question about a mental health issue for you, your family, someone you know. Give us a call, and Rick is here to answer those questions. That's starting in just a few moments here on KSJE. Also want to remind you, coming up next hour, 9 a.m., Mick Hess will be here, roving with the arts, and today Mick is playing some music from the great Leonard Bernstein, music for piano, coming your way today, along with some arts news on Roving with the Arts at 9. Today at noon, it's our Friday Spotlight program here on KSJE. My guest will be Thomas Heuser. He's the music director of the San Juan Symphony. The Symphony is in concert this weekend in Durango at Fort Lewis College on Saturday, and in Farmington here at San Juan College on Sunday afternoon. We'll be talking with Thomas Heuser about the selections he's picked for this weekend's concerts, including a piece from Leonard Bernstein. This is the 100th anniversary of his birth, so lots of attention being paid to him. We'll talk about that today at noon on our Friday Spotlight program on KSJE. And at 12:30, don't forget about our storytelling program, Cuentos, Hana, and Tales, produced in cooperation with the folks at the Farmington Public Library. Storytelling today at 12:30 on KSJE. And a brief mention about a program tomorrow night. It's our vinyl and record program, Turntable Taxi, and Carl Freuden hosts that for us, and he is going to be featuring tomorrow the music of Latin American jazz musician Gato Barbieri. That is coming up tomorrow, Saturday nights at 8 on Turntable Taxi here on KSJE, and you can always check out our programming schedule by going to our website at ksje.com. It's also where you'll find our regional events calendar at ksje.com. A couple of items to point out to you would include the Encore Birthday Party happening this afternoon here at San Juan College for the great Encore program. We mentioned the San Juan Symphony concerts, and next week on November 6th, it's San Juan Regional Medical Center's Hall of Fame induction ceremony. That is going on as well. A sunrise walk tomorrow at the Riverside Nature Center, if you're interested in that, and lots of craft fairs on our calendar, so there's no shortage of those in the region, so you can check those out as well. Details on our regional events calendar at ksje.com. Well, as I mentioned, my guest here in the studio this morning, Rick Quevedo, is here from Desert View Family Counseling. Rick, good morning.
Good morning, Scott.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And this is a really important topic that we have wanting to be talking about this morning. That is mental health and what it means for folks in our community and things along that line. Of course, you've got a career in mental health and helping people through some mental health issues, right?
Yeah, I've been very lucky to be able to what I get to do. So
yeah, and so with that being said, I mean, we have to talk a little bit about what's been going on. There still seems to be mental health challenges in our community and across the state and across the nation. I mean, we're no different. Right. And especially in retrospective, what happened in Aztec almost coming up on a year. And I think that's why you reached out to me, and I thought it was a great idea to get you on the radio and talk about some of these mental health questions and issues that people, individuals, families might be still dealing with now, right?
Yeah, like you said, it's coming up on a year, but we just, at Desert View and working with other community providers, we really just wanted to put it out there to open up that conversation and keep that conversation going, not just about the anniversary coming up for Aztec, but just mental health in general.
Right.
And I think that, you know, for our community, I feel like we're ahead as far as really having that conversation and talking about those things and getting families to understand the depth of mental health. Right.
And that includes a whole lot of different things, right? When we talk about mental health, it can be depression, it can be anxiety. What are some of the other things that you would file under the category of mental health?
Trauma definitely,
Right.
brings patterns of mental health, and there's folks that struggle with suicide, ideation of suicide, just a number of different things that can contribute.
Right. And so, again, with some of the situations that we've seen, I know there's been a lot of work from the investigators in the Aztec situation to go out and do more debriefings for folks and be transparent, which we want them to be.
Correct.
But by learning all these other extra details, maybe that could also be a source of concern for folks and anxiety and what have you, right?
Sure.
As we learn more about what happened that fateful day.
Going back to the kids, some kids already deal with struggles
Right.
of emotional health and depression, anxiety, or being bullied, or seeing bad things at home, or bad things that have happened to them. And so then you add this to the and it's a lot for them. It can be too much.
Sure. And I know everyone's always, I think, very open about asking folks, do you want to hear this? Do you want to be exposed to this information? You have a choice. No one is forcing people to listen to the extra details or what have you. And some people may feel, yeah, I want to know what happened. But then when they start listening to it, they don't want to know what happened.
Correct.
Is that something that happens?
Yeah, very much so.
A lot?
Yeah, very much. And that's okay. You don't have to know all the details. I think the important part is to kind of understand, how this has affected you and what to do with that.
Sure.
So.
And many times we might hear some folks say, well, gee, it's almost been a year. You really need to get over this.
Yeah.
And I know that's the wrong thing to say to folks, because everyone has their own timeline for these types of things, right?
Everyone grieves differently. Everyone deals with trauma differently. And trauma is very complex and it can be a lifetime. So,
True.
Yeah.
And so what can someone say to an individual who may be struggling, I guess, to move on, and they see that and they really want to help them to be able to maybe not forget what happened, but at least to try to move on with other parts of their life, of their school, of their work, of their relationship, whatever it might be.
I think Aztec's been very proactive. I think the message is still there. This is what's happened, but I also think there's a very positive message that's going behind it. A lot of different things happening in the schools. I think they're preparing for the anniversary as well, and that's what you got to do. And like I said, you don't, have to have all the answers or how to fix this or anything, but you do have to figure out, how that affects you and how to get control under that. And there's lots of ways of honoring the schools and those lost, and there's many different things to do to help with that grief.
Right.
It's a process, though.
But for people that don't know how to do that, maybe, or what the first step is to take, that's where people like you and
of course, we
other counselors can come in, right?
Somebody. You bet. Yeah. And
to identify what might be holding them back or keeping them from identifying how to move on.
Yeah. And again, it could be something even bigger. It could be something bigger than just what they witnessed last year. It could be years ago.
Right.
And this is kind of just starting it up all over again.
True. And this isn't our program today isn't about just the Aztec incident. It can be about any type of situation, trauma, anxiety, depression, whatever, because again, we still see, one suicide is too many in our community. And unfortunately, we still see too many of those.
Yeah. I'd say about 20% of young people struggle with mental health. And most of the time it starts at the age 14. But for a lot of kids, especially if there's a chemical imbalance involved, it can start much younger. And that's still a surprise to me to see at the clinic when we're working with 6, 7-year-olds who, have been diagnosed with bipolar or something very serious as you would an adult. But it does start very young.
Right. And so with that being said, is there any do we know why it starts around that age, or is it just being a teenager part of this?
Like I said, some of it's chemical imbalance. Some of it, if the balance isn't there for our mind to work correctly, then it's not. And then the other part is environment, patterns of what's happened to in their lives. A number of those things I'll add to that.
Sure. And so I guess if folks who are listening this morning, what are some of the signs, I guess, to watch for that their child or teenager may be having some difficulties?
Yeah, just kind of a change in their day-to-day routine. If they seem withdraw, if they sleep a lot, if they kind of just don't kind of disconnect, I guess, and just really kind of watch those signs. And it's tricky because teenagers...
That sounds like a teenager. I was just going to say, exactly. I don't want to make light of it, but that sounds like a teenager,
They
Rick.
go through all kinds of emotions,
right.
And you never know kind of where that's at.
Sure.
But as a parent, it's so important to stay plugged in, to keep having those conversations. I think it's so important to normalize this conversation as much as possible, because we think of mental health and there's all these big words attached to it and the stigma attached to it, and that's not what this is about. This is about a conversation. This is about communication. This is about making you feel better, or your child feel better.
Right.
But you got to do a little work to do that.
And that's another important part of this conversation about mental health, especially with parents and children, is to be connected to their child's life. It's really, and it's sometimes hard to do, I guess, as kids get busier and activities and things like that, and mom and dad are busier and things like that, maybe with the other kids or younger kids. But it really is important to kind of know what your kid is up to, how they're doing, and if there is a change, it may be more obvious to you if you've been engaged.
Absolutely. We've talked about this over many years about, both parents having to work. It's just different these days. Lots of after-school programs that the kids go to. The kids are very plugged into the electronics. It's just a different time, but you still can make that kind of time for your family. You can still make that time to check in with your child, and just takes a few minutes.
Very true. Rick Quevedo is my guest this morning. He is with Desert View Family Counseling. He is the director of Desert View Family Counseling. And we were talking about mental health this morning. And if you would like to ask a question or join the conversation, we invite you to do that. You can do that quite easily by making a comment on the KSJE Facebook page, as we're talking about this on the video stream this morning, or by giving us a call at 505-566-3909. 566-390.9, and give us a call to ask a question about mental health. And there still seems to be a stigma about talking about this topic, and folks are maybe always concerned about admitting that maybe they do have a problem, a concern, and that is something you have to work against as well, right?
It does. You if you broke your arm, you'd get a nice cast and everybody be signing it and all. But if you disclose that you have a mental health issue, you don't get that kind of support.
Right.
Sometimes you often get that X, so to speak, on your head that, you're different.
Right.
Yeah.
And are we getting better, at least, in accepting
I would say that
some of that than we have in the past?
The youth now, I'd say they're definitely more open and accepting of that.
Right.
So, because it's something that we're talking about more and that they see more. But us older folks, it's still a challenge to change that.
Right.
That mindset.
And it seems like it's always somewhat of a stigma too, as we become more accepting of it. Though it is hopefully going away, but is it still somewhat of a, I don't want to say inexact science, but are we still learning more about the workings of the brain and mental health and how to treat people who have these problems potentially?
Constantly. It's so complex, as I said.
Right.
And then we get it to where it takes it to the other spectrum too, where we want to educate, especially young people, about not taking their emotions to the other side, as far as I don't want to say using that as a crutch, but taking it to the other side, the other extreme, and not finding a good balance for themselves and the way they conduct their emotions.
Right. And so again, we talked about anxiety and depression, and all these things can be symptoms of
depression.
A mental health issue, right?
Yeah, and it can be acute, meaning that a lot of folks that we see are going through some kind of adjustment in their life, and so it could be temporary. Therapy may be short term, and you work it through. But on the other hand, it could be something that somebody's fighting all their life.
Right.
Yeah.
And children, adults, I mean, it doesn't discriminate.
It does not.
Rich, poor,
no,
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Ethnicity,
doesn't matter. Get your name if it's it's supposed to get your name. So
And again, that's an important thing to remind folks about too, is that you could have almost every in need of nothing, but still have depression, still have anxiety, still have a need for talking to somebody about a problem, potentially, correct?
Yeah, and it's changed for me over the years, because this was kind of a hush-hush thing in the beginning, and now to run into people that either we seen years ago or just people that I've known for years, and then to start disclosing their challenges and struggles, that's a great thing. That's huge, that people feel comfortable that they can talk about this stuff now.
Right, exactly. We talked too a little bit about some back-to-school toolkits that are available on a website that you shared with me, and so we can share some of that information, I think, too, on the air this morning, and talk a little bit about that. What should folks be aware of, I guess, with back to school?
Basically, just again, like I said, being that kids already come with some mental health issues, they already have some kind of something going on for themselves. The other piece to this is sometimes they have a parent who's depressed, who doesn't function as a functioning parent, I guess, to meet their needs, that also is a deficit for that child. But there's just a number of different things, and this back to school toolkit is specifically for emotions. It talks about trauma, understanding it. A lot of kids from being bullied to not feeling safe in their own neighborhood, witnessing stuff at home, being abused. A number of different things that contribute to this. It talks about preventing suicide,
right,
and suicidal ideation and what that looks like. Recognizing signs of depression and anxiety, and recognizing psychosis. And I think that's something that's very scary for a young person who has a moment of psychosis, who doesn't understand what just happened. My whole world just changed. Something just happened. I'm not right. And from there,
don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Someone explain that
what
to me.
What happens now? Yeah.
Or does the kid reach out to anyone? Maybe they don't, and they keep it all to themselves and really wonder what's going on.
Yeah.
The graphics we just showed our viewers this morning, Rick, talking a little bit about suicide being the number 2 cause of death between ages 10 and 24, which is another surprising statistic to me. Boys more likely to die from suicide, while girls are more likely to report attempting suicide. Yeah. And 70% of students seriously considered attempting suicide in the last year. That seems like a high number to me as well.
Yeah, it really is.
And unfortunately, in our area, it seems like we have above average numbers of teenage suicides. Would that be a correct statement? I'm not basing that on any type of data that I've seen, but just from
our community certainly ranks up there. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've had so many conversations, folks like yourself and other providers and stuff. What is it about this area that's happening?
Right.
I don't know that there's an answer to that.
Sure. So, but for some reason it's happening. That's why parents need to be more connected and more aware of what's going on in their kids' lives.
Yeah.
Interesting. Other things I want to point out here is some kind of what you can do, advice of maybe what folks can do, what parents can do for their teen, and some of that advice would be asking. Yeah. Just asking. And and again, just keeping the conversation simple, and making that person feel comfortable that you're talking to. And in that way they'll open up. Also, especially with your kids, go do something with them. Go for a walk or go do some kind of activity, and then start to have that conversation with them. Kind of takes the stress off, them being the focus of that conversation. Right. They're using the acronym of ACT, so ACT, right? A for asking, C for care, to let someone know that you care what's going on with them, I guess.
T to tell, yeah.
And T to tell, right?
Yeah, so.
And that's an important thing, and that would be telling a trusted adult is what they're saying.
Yeah, coach, teacher, a family friend, family member, pastor,
all those types of things.
Yeah, definitely.
Good advice. Rick Quevedo, my guest this morning. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, more with my guest in just a moment. We invite you to join the conversation as well. You can do that. Make a comment on our Facebook page at KSJE, or, of course, you can give us a call, 505-566-3909, 566-390.9. Maybe you have a suggestion of how folks can deal with mental health issues, or what kids could be doing and who they could talk to if they have a concern in their life. So join the conversation. Give us a call. Back with more in just a moment here on KSJE. The time is 8:28.